Who are some people who do the most despicable crimes? Let's find out, starting with number 6, Botox Cowboys. A raid led by the Manchester, England Police and the Medicines and Healthcare Product Regulatory Agency, known as the MHRA, confiscated a Ferrari, Rolex watches, and £50,000 in cash in connection with a group called the Botox Cowboys. Operation Striker targeted individuals believed to be importing illegal and potentially harmful beauty products, including 10,000 unlicensed vials of Botox, fillers, and numbing agents. The products, originating from South Korea, were found stashed in a storage unit and were intended to be sold on social media and various websites or directly to salons that undercut legitimate clinics. A red and black Ferrari F12 Berlinetta seized during the raid became a symbol of the lifestyle enjoyed by those involved in the illicit trade, along with the £50,000 in cash, really showing how lucrative the illegal beauty product market is. And the criminals behind the operation weren't merely peddling knockoff luxury goods either. Like, yeah, it sucks to unknowingly buy a knockoff purse or something, but these substances could pose serious health risks. Botox is a powerful substance used for anti-wrinkle treatments. In this case, the unlicensed products hadn't undergone the necessary quality checks, making them potentially dangerous. The MHRA head of enforcement talked about the global nature of the trade and how it exploits people's insecurities. He said that these criminal enterprises are primarily motivated by huge profits, showing a blatant disregard for the safety of consumers. He went on to say that the confiscated products, if unlicensed, carry unknown risks, turning the act of using them into a form of Russian roulette. We know, you're surprised too. Who would have thought that criminals do bad things to get money and that they don't care about other people? The raid was part of a broader effort to combat the flourishing trade of unregulated beauty products, which often bypass safety measures and quality checks. Despite the ban on certain procedures for individuals under 18, the beauty industry is full of risks, with criminal organizations finding new and creative ways to exploit legal loopholes. The criminals behind these operations all seem to share a common theme. They don't care at all about people getting hurt, and they always prioritize profits over the well-being of their clientele. They're toxic. Number 5, the Psychopath. Andrew Merritt is a serial criminal with a staggering 118 past convictions. We're sure that number is going to just keep going up. He was sentenced to 4 years in jail for robbing an unnamed disabled man in the UK. Merritt approached the elderly victim, an 88-year-old pensioner, in a motorized scooter and robbed him of £1,100. Yeah, there are people like this guy walking around. The whole thing went down when Merritt asked the kind pensioner if he could spare £2. Surprisingly, the elderly man, out of the goodness of his heart, took out his wallet and handed over £3 and some change. However, the situation took a turn as CCTV footage captured Merritt hugging the pensioner before callously grabbing his wallet and walking away with a smile. As the vulnerable victim pleaded for the return of his money, Merritt heartlessly counted the large sum of £20 banknotes inside the wallet. Merritt decided to keep the cash and callously discarded the wallet nearby. The entire incident unfolded on a public street, and witnesses who came to the elderly man's aid immediately contacted the police. In an attempt to evade detection, Merritt stopped at a doorway to change his t-shirt. Despite his clever attempt at trickery, a police officer recognized him from the video footage anyway, leading to his subsequent arrest. Body cam footage captured Merritt being arrested while lying on his bed 6 days after the robbery. Like, what was he expecting with that? No, officer, that wasn't me. That man was wearing a white shirt. Mine has stripes. During a police interview, Merritt brazenly denied stealing the money, claiming that the elderly man had agreed to buy a bike off of him. However, the evidence against him was overwhelming, and Merritt eventually pleaded guilty to the charge of robbery. In addition to the 4-year jail term, Merritt received a criminal behavior order prohibiting him from entering the town center for 4 years. He was also ordered to pay a £228 victim surcharge. Seriously, is there any way we can just toss this guy in the trash? Number 4. The Stockbroker. Sam Whittingslow was sentenced to 3 years in jail for an investment scheme that targeted a wealthy businesswoman in her 50s. Whittingslow, from the UK, had known his victim, Jill Kelly, since childhood. He exploited their relationship, and he manipulated her into investing over £500,000 in a fake investment. The scam involved Whittingslow creating online personas, posing as senior investment managers with promises of doubling returns. He convinced Miss Kelly to invest in bonds and got her to further invest on behalf of her grandchildren. In reality, Whittingslow was merely an assistant at a stockbroking firm. Whittingslow's victims, including Miss Kelly and her friends, entrusted him with a total of £775,600. However, only £96,941 was ever repaid. The fraudster spent the money on lavish holidays abroad and online gambling, leaving his victims in financial ruin. Miss Kelly, a successful businesswoman with a lot of money, fell prey to Whittingslow's deceit. The con man who had initiated an intimate relationship with her used their personal connection to gain her confidence. Whittingslow's activities extended beyond Miss Kelly, ensnaring additional victims such as businessman Nigel Williams and Anthony Orrell and his daughter Grace. The court revealed that these individuals lost significant amounts with little to no returns on their investments. When Miss Kelly attempted to withdraw from the scheme, she was coerced into paying an additional £80,000. The investigation uncovered that Whittingslow had employed fake online profiles named Karen Wilson and David Brad to trick his victims into believing they were dealing with reputable investment managers. Upon discovery of the scam, Whittingslow was reported to the police, leading to his arrest. In court, he admitted to 5 counts of fraud by representation over 2.5 years, getting him his 3-year sentence. That's what he gets for scamming someone he's known since he was a kid. Number 3. Stealing from mom. Victoria Rosado was accused of stealing over $52,000 from her elderly mother, Deborah King. The unemployed daughter faced charges of exploitation of the elderly, with authorities revealing that Rosado spent a substantial portion of the money on party supplies. We think you know what that is. And she also bought a Lexus for her alleged party supplier. The investigation began after being prompted by a Department of Children and Families inquiry into possible exploitation. Deputies discovered that King's health had deteriorated significantly after a fall, leading to her hospitalization. Medical professionals identified severe alcohol withdrawals and concerns about her mental decline due to age and alcoholism arose. As detectives probed into the financial transactions, it was revealed that large sums of money had vanished from her bank account. Withdrawals, including a substantial $6,500 in cash from ATMs, were made without King's clear recollection or understanding. Rosado claimed she had permission and knew her mother's debit card PIN number, which might explain 1 or 2 transactions, right? But the exploitation escalated, with roughly $35,000 disappearing within 30 days from an account that initially held $35,900. Rosado apparently used $7,500 of her mother's funds to purchase a 2008 Lexus. By April, she had transferred the vehicle's title to Kelsey McFoley, a suspected dealer with a long criminal record. He sounds like a great guy too. Can you imagine what magic would be created if these two ever had a child? Number 2. Honey Trapped. Dating scammer Gemma Frost spared no efforts in orchestrating a chilling plot to kidnap and rob a trusting man she met online. Frost initiated the honey trap by luring her victim, Christopher Stanley, on a dating app. After engaging in conversation, she strategically asked him for a loan of £210. Unbeknownst to Stanley, this seemingly harmless request was the beginning of a sinister plan. Discovering that Stanley had life savings, Frost decided to kidnap and rob him, bringing in 2 mysterious accomplices. The trap was set into motion when Frost arranged to pick up Stanley for a face-to-face date. However, as they drove down a street, two masked men approached the vehicle. To Stanley's shock, Frost steered towards the curb, stopping near the ominous figures. The two men, one dressed in a surgical gown and mask, and the other in a hooded tracksuit, approached the car and opened the door. That's never a good sign. Stanley knew that it was time to run and try to get out of the car, but the two guys tried to grab him, attempting to force him into the back of the car as he tried to escape. Stanley managed to break free, falling onto the pavement in the process, got away unharmed. The two men then got into the vehicle and Frost sped away. Following the incident, Stanley, understandably shaken, reported the terrifying encounter to authorities. Video footage traced the car back to Frost's residence, leading to her arrest. In court, she admitted her role in the conspiracy to kidnap and was subsequently sentenced to an 18-month suspended prison term. Frost said she was at a low point in her life and was spending a lot of time with dudes that had pretty hefty criminal backgrounds. She claimed that the two men had coerced her into participating in the robbery after discovering Stanley had loaned her money, leaving her too scared to refuse. Honey trap incidents like these are becoming more and more commonplace, so it's crucial for all of you to be careful and take precautions before inviting strangers into your home or letting someone you just met drive you somewhere. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay right here to find out how despicable these people can get using religion to separate people from their money. Number 1. Honey Trapped 2. We've got another honey trap story for you, and this one involves Surpreet Dillon and Temideo Ah. They orchestrated a chilling plot that led to the passing of a man named Saul Murray. The two women, along with male accomplices Ikram Afia and Cleon Brown, devised a plan to steal Murray's Rolex watches after seeing his flaunting posts on Instagram using a honey trap. Honey traps are when an attractive person is typically used in espionage as a lure to gather information or to commit a crime. Think kind of like Black Widow before she became a good guy. Wolves actually do something similar when hunting farm dogs. They'll use a female wolf to lure the dog away from its home, acting all playful. Once the dog gets too far away, the other wolves surround it, and the situation takes a turn. Wolves are scary. Anyway, Dillon initiated the trap after exchanging messages with Murray and traveling from London to his location. Ah joined the scheme, and the group met Murray for drinks at his home. The plan involved spiking Murray's brandy. However, the dosage wasn't enough to knock him out, causing Ah to leave and bring in the two male accomplices. Surveillance footage captured a horrifying sequence of events, showing two men entering the property, one brandishing an edged weapon. Murray was found in his flat the following day, succumbing to a wound that had pierced an artery. An investigation revealed that the Rolex watches weren't all that the group was after, but Murray had just recently moved into the apartment, so there wasn't anything else for them to grab yet. The police, relying on various sources, managed to figure out what exactly happened and made their arrests. Dillon, who appeared to be the main bad guy, was sentenced to 10 years for manslaughter and 10 years for conspiracy to commit robbery. Ah received a 7-year sentence for her involvement in the plot. Afia, identified through a distinctive 1,300-pound designer coat he was spotted wearing, faced a life sentence with a minimum term of 25 years. Brown received an 11-year sentence. Sadly, Dillon was seen on camera assuring her kid that she would be home in a few weeks and denied any involvement in the crime, claiming she was only helping the authorities. Sure, she knew she was lying and was getting probably less than she deserved, but your heart can't help but go out to that kid who didn't choose to be born to a mom like her. Dillon admitted to targeting 6 men in similar honey traps. One of the saddest parts of this story is, remember those Rolex watches that initially attracted the group's attention? They were fake, meaning that this guy's passing was even more senseless. It's weird to think that somehow, because the watches were fake, it's like worse. Like it somehow would be better if at least the things were real, but instead, this guy passed away because he was bragging about fake watches. Who are the pastors who absolutely just love the cash? And of course, love donations from their followers. All in the name of God, of course. Let's get started with number 4, Lamar Whitehead. Lamar Whitehead is a Brooklyn-based pastor known for his flashy lifestyle, and he's someone we've covered before. And this is his latest update. Allegedly, Whitehead defrauded his parishioners out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Federal agents arrested Lamar Whitehead the Leaders of Tomorrow International Church founder, in December 2022. However, this wasn't his first interaction with the law. Whitehead's criminal history began in 2006 with an arrest over an identity theft scam that used the names of people living in Brooklyn and Long Island. At the time, he faced 10 counts of identity theft. He was released early for good behavior from Sing Sing Correctional Facility in 2013. A year later, Whitehead received a cease and desist letter from the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office over his false claims of promoting a collaborative justice initiative with the DA's office that year. In 2016, despite owing $251,000 for an outstanding court judgment over an unpaid personal loan in 2009, Whitehead drove around Brooklyn in a Bentley and Maserati. Whitehead also allegedly scammed $90,000 out of one of his parishioners. The woman was reluctant to hand over her life savings, but trusted him. At the time, she struggled to secure a mortgage with her low credit score, and Whitehead offered to help. As the savings were her only source of income, he promised to pay her $100 a month, but he supposedly only made one payment in January 2021. She wired Whitehead the money, but rather than spend it on her new home, he treated himself to expensive clothes, among other things. When she asked about her new home, Whitehead claimed he'd talked to her after his election campaign for Brooklyn Borough President. Later, Whitehead told her he had no obligation to pay her back and would invest the cash in his own company. She learned he'd used the money to buy a $4.4 million home and sought a $1 million judgment in the scam. Whitehead allegedly had other victims too, including a businessman he extorted out of $5,000 after promising they'd make millions of dollars if he could borrow $50,000. He touted his relationship with New York City Mayor Eric Adams, claiming he could get favors from the New York City government. Adams had supported Whitehead and his ministry since it opened in 2013 and spoke fondly of him at events. His ministry's website had a donate button, despite his claims that the organization didn't solicit funds. In an indictment against Whitehead, there were claims that he threatened at least one victim who only made a payment to the pastor under the instruction of the authorities investigating Whitehead at the time. At the time of his arrest, he told authorities he only had one phone, but had texted one of his victims to contact him on a different phone. As part of his indictment, he had to forfeit every belonging obtained through his offenses. For anything that couldn't be found or obtained, federal agents had permission to seize other items that equaled the value of those belongings. As of December 2022, Whitehead's case is ongoing. He's charged with extortion, wire fraud, and making material false statements. If convicted, he could face a maximum of 65 years in prison. Number 3. The Edwards family. The Edwards family ran a faith-based charity that pledged to teach the Christian faith and be devoted to service. Fall of 2020, they allegedly pulled off a multi-million-dollar fraud when they applied for the COVID relief program created for small businesses and nonprofit organizations. Parents Evan and Mary Jane Edwards and their adult children, Joy and Josh, filed paperwork claiming that the ministry, Aslan International Ministry, handled a monthly payroll of $2.7 million and had 486 employees. After receiving $8 million from the government, the family was on the radar of federal investigators who found inconsistencies in the claims they made in their application. One of the most alarming facts was that the accountant who signed off on the loan suffered from dementia and hadn't worked for the organization in 3 years. Federal investigators visited the ministry's Orlando office but found the doors were locked, and neighboring businesses claimed to have never seen anyone inside. The ministry's website appeared inactive, donation links not working, and blurbs that seemed to have been copied from other religious websites. By the fall of 2020, federal agents were planning on questioning the family when police officers pulled them over for speeding in their Mercedes SUV. All 4 suspects were in the car, and Evan Edwards explained they were on their way to a conference in Texas. Federal agents arrived and searched the vehicle, where it became clear this wasn't an ordinary road trip. Edwards sat with a laser printer on his lap, and in one of the rear passenger seats were 2 clear bags filled with shredded paperwork. Authorities found suitcases filled with financial record, 2 Faraday bags to block any sort of GPS tracking with tablets and laptops inside, a paper shredder, and backpacks filled with external hard drives and USB drives. A Florida federal judge ordered the forfeiture of the $8 million they received from the government, claiming the money was the proceeds from money laundering and bank fraud. Despite this, the family wasn't charged with any crimes. Federal agents gathered information about the family, visiting Aslan International Office's deserted headquarters and chasing down Walter Nita, the accountant who supposedly signed Aslan's loan application. Nita's son spoke on his behalf, confirming his father's dementia. The $2.7 million monthly payroll mentioned in the loan application was far from the actual monthly income, which was closer to $5,500. Federal authorities had been watching the Edwards family for some time when they knocked on the Edwards' front door in September 2020, but nobody answered. 9 days later, agents returned with a search warrant to find that the house was empty. The Evans family was pulled that same evening, and authorities took the family into custody. All four were charged with filing false immigration documents at the Canadian border when they had originally moved to the U.S. Their forms claimed they'd be working for Walter Nita despite his ailing health. However, those charges were dismissed when a U.S. Customs officer admitted to having misread the interview reports. Nita's son suggested the family could have forged his father's signature on the visa applications, but he could have also signed the documents and not remembered. Months after the traffic stop, Edwards and his son returned to their boarded-up family home without his wife or daughter, whose whereabouts unknown. In December 2022, officers arrested Edwards and his son at their Florida home. The arrest came 5 months after an NBC News report brought new attention to their case. Their charges included multiple counts of fraud, and their first court appearances did not go well. Evan Edwards refused to go due to struggles in his health that forced him to be in a wheelchair, and he didn't want to be in a court-holding cell in his chair. Josh Edwards wouldn't answer even the most basic questions asked by the judge in the hearing. The judge ordered the pair to stay in custody pending completing psychiatric and medical exams. There's much of this crazy story we couldn't get into here, so for a deeper dive into the insane details, click the link here. Number 2. Ivon Hampton Barley. Florida church pastor Ivon Hampton Barley allegedly used her relationship to exploit an elderly couple to clean out their bank account and steal their home. Ivon Hampton Barley's 10-year friendship with an elderly, childless couple seemed innocent initially. She was the founder and pastor of True Spirit of Christ Our Redeemer Christian Ministries and spent time with members of her church, including the elderly couple, both of whom were suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. However, family members of the couple were suspicious of Hampton Barley early on and did not approve of her time with them. Their concerns were warranted, as Hampton Barley's time with the couple was more sinister than anybody realized. Over several months, Hampton Barley altered their retirement funding, added her name to the victims' bank accounts, and attempted to cash out their life insurance policy. Hampton Barley would pretend to be the couple's caretaker or daughter, and even added her name to the male victim's bank account. She withdrew roughly $18,000 from their accounts while claiming she had power of attorney. While posing as the couple's friend, Hampton Barley transferred ownership of their home to herself and set herself up as their sole beneficiary so that she would inherit their assets when they died. When the couple's niece, Nadine, discovered Hampton Barley's name on their deed while reviewing their personal affairs, she contacted an attorney. The attorney found that Hampton Barley diverted funds from his client's accounts to her own and cashed out the surrender value of the couple's life insurance policy. While investigating True Spirit of Christ Our Redeemer Christian Ministries further, the church's most recent physical address appears to be a luxury 22-story condo building where one of the church's officers reside. No information about the church could be found outside of the listing in Sunbiz Florida's business registry, where it was listed as a nonprofit. The family's attorney couldn't even confirm if the couple had actually attended the church, if that's where they had met Hampton Barley, or if the church even existed at all. Within days of the arrest, not one member of the church had come forward to defend their pastor. In fact, the family's attorney found unusual, since the pastors often have strong relationships with their parishioners. Family filed a lawsuit against Hampton Barley in the spring of 2020, but ended the litigation as family members didn't want to put the couple through more distress. However, they were able to restore the deed to the couple. Hampton Barley might have dodged the litigation, but Miami-Dade police arrested and criminally charged her with grand theft, organized scheme to defraud, and exploitation of the elderly. Hampton Barley is now awaiting a judge's decision, which could end up including restitution of the stolen money. Number 1. Shephard Bushiri. Malawi-born Shephard Bushiri is a Christian preacher many believe to be a prophet with healing powers. Bushiri amassed a substantial following and ran churches from Ghana to South Africa. His followers flocked to listen to his sermons, although some needed more from him than his teachings. Supposedly, Bushiri performed miracles that changed people's lives, with his followers believing he could heal them and improve their lives. Bushiri often spoke about the miracles he'd performed, claiming he'd cured people of HIV, changed the fortunes of those living in poverty, poverty, made blind people see, and once walked on air. So, like Chris Angel, Bushiri offered a range of products at the large church complex, the Enlightened Christian Gathering, where he preached. On Sundays, he attracted roughly 40,000 people, all of whom would listen to the prophet's teachings, and some would do some shopping before they left. Bushiri sold merchandise at the stalls around the complex. Some of his products included branded t-shirts, towels, caps, calendars, wristbands, and even miracle oil. Vendors advertised that Bushiri blessed all their merchandise, so everything had healing power. Pfizer must be a little nervous. Bushiri soon amassed impressive wealth, although nobody knew his specific net worth. His fortune allowed him to buy 4 private planes and several hotels. He was also rumored to have been interested in several mines. Allegations of unsafe practices by the preacher were brought to light when congregants had to perform questionable acts to demonstrate their faith, where they ate rats, snakes, and grass and drank petroleum. It sounds like Bushiri was starting a fraternity. Despite filling sports stadiums during his services, some people were skeptical of Bushiri. They believed he was extorting those living in poverty who were so desperate to improve their lives they were willing to buy his snake oil with the hopes it would help their situations. While impoverished people sought change by buying his products, Bushiri became one of the wealthiest religious leaders in Africa. South African authorities arrested Bushiri and his wife on fraud and money laundering charges, but the couple skipped bail and fled to Malawi. According to Bushiri, his life was under threat, and the South African authorities didn't offer him protection. He addressed his supporters on social media and told them his decision to skip bail was to save him and his wife lives. After they fled, South Africa quickly issued arrest warrants for skipping bail. The specific way that Bushiri and his wife left the country was unknown. However, one theory was that a syndicate specializing in taking stolen cars from South Africa to Malawi helped sneak them out. The situation threatened to cause diplomatic tension between Malawi and South Africa, especially when a rumor circulated that the couple fled South Africa with Malawi's president Lazarus Chakwera on his presidential jet, although Chakwera's office and South African authorities denied those claims. A Malawi court deemed Bushiri's arrest illegal because it did not pass through the Minister of Homeland Security. In November 2020, Malawian authorities arrested the pastor and his wife when Interpol issued an arrest warrant for the two. However, his troubles in South Africa were far from over, where the government charged him with stealing $6.6 million through money laundering, fraud, theft. They also broke the conditions of their bail by leaving the country. Bushiri spoke to reporters outside the Malawi court, claiming he wasn't celebrating his victory, but a victory of God instead. While talking about justice prevailing, he forgot that South Africa would likely send an extradition request for him and his wife. In response to violating his jail conditions, the South African court seized his residence, although he appeared unfazed by the situation, stating he didn't care about his assets. Fears of Bushiri's release hurting Malawi's relations with South Africa complicated the extradition process. As part of the South African development community, Malawi and South Africa had already promised the protocol on extradition that they would send back fugitives. However, as of early 2022, their extradition case is ongoing. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comment section what you'd rather have: pay 0 taxes ever again, or have free paid vacations for life.